they should first and foremost ensure in the sense should make sure that the travel is safe and timely. So the reliability of operation, the efficiency of operation, that those are the two most important aspects of the requirements of airport. So ensure, that is, an airport or the design of it, the process flows and the overall functioning of an airport should ensure safety of travel, safety, security, and efficiency or the time utilization of the travel as far as a customer, a passenger is concerned. So, so they should ensure it, and it should facilitate the travel. So when you say ensuring, it's just making sure that the safety and probably the punctuality, etc., are in place. But then facilitating it is more to do with how comfortably the safety and the punctuality, etc., are served to the customer, I mean the passenger here. So to facilitate the transport, that is to make it easier, to make it more memorable, to make it more comfortable, and to make it easier for the passenger community is also an important objective of the overall airport design and function. And then it's not limited by this. Airports are actually, the modern perspective of airport design put a lot of emphasis on attracting the passengers also. In fact, the first slide that I showed in the course, in the very first session, if you remember, was that an airport is not just a point, just not a transit point in the whole travel itinerary. It's a point which creates the first and the last impression about the destination. So it tells a lot, or it leaves a lot of impression in the mind of a passenger about the place that he or she is visiting, or the place that he or she is leaving from. So from that perspective, and so that is only one aspect of it. From the general commercial perspective of the space utilization, the other sources of revenue, other that is the general sources of revenue, etc., also this attract, or the need to attract the passengers, to impress them, that is also important, as considered to be important in the design of airports. So when we talk about modern airport design, all these three aspects, ensuring the safety, facilitating the travel, and facilitating all the activities related to the travel, and attracting the passengers, all these are important from the perspective of the overall design. Now, from a fundamental perspective, the airport area, or the areas that are associated to the airport, can be categorized, or usually actually functionally categorized into what we see here, the various sections that you see here. We'll start from the bottom. So I'll try to just start from the first that we see here in the bottom. The sorry. Bottom of the sketch, the ground access system. So we are looking at it from the perspective of a passenger, the most important stakeholder of the airport, as the person who is actually a customer, the passenger. The passenger has to come to the airport. right? So usually as a traveler, you will be coming from various parts of the city. So any part of the city. So the ground access, that is how do you arrive the airport, maybe using public transport, or you may be driving or using taxi or any means that is convenient to the passenger. The airport should have facilities by which the passengers have ground access. That is, they can reach the airport, which includes parking area, the area where the taxis can uh, stop, and then the passengers can alight, etc. So there should be that. This all fall in the category or the objectives of the ground access system. So the way the passengers come from various parts to the airport. So the airport roads and transport feeder, etc. So particularly larger airports will, as we know, will have several roads that lead to them, and there will be several divisions and there will be several branches of it, etc. And so as we go inside, then obviously the parking area, the roadside facilities, that is provisions for passengers to get down, the taxis to park, and also the facility to carry the luggages inside, etc. Those the carts and the availability of the mixer. So they are all part of the roadside facilities. So once you come into the airport, or once you approach the airport, once you get out from your means of ground transport and enter the airport, the next point that you, the most important area that you come across is the terminal building. We'll see what all constitute the terminal building later, but the terminal building is the next point that you get through. Obviously, for your security checking in the luggages, ticketing, boarding pass, etc. All those activities take place inside the terminal building. So all these what we have discussed so far, that is the ground access systems, the airport roads, the parking facilities, and the entire roadside facilities, and the terminal building. Okay, all these put together are referred to as are the land side components. So that these are referred to as the land side components. Now, what next? After the terminal building, whatever remains are referred to as the air side components, the components which are facing taking off and landing. So air side components. So land side components are whatever comes from the ground access system, including the terminal, up to and including the terminal building. And whatever comes after that is on the other side are usually conventionally defined as air side components. What are they? After the terminal building, that is one a passenger, say for example, during the boarding, you have the various gates. We'll be discussing about gates in particular later. Then you have the apron gates, that is the which lead to the aprons. What is an apron? Apron is an area where the airports are, where the aircraft are parked. Now, parking can be for different parking of aircraft can be for different operations. Could be either for boarding of travelers, disembarkment, for fueling, refueling, or maintenance, etc. So the aircraft, whether they are loaded or unloaded, the area where they are parked in general, or the entire area where they are parked are referred to as aprons, and it could be the parking could be for various purposes, depending on the context of flight of that particular aeroplane. It includes even maintenance, fueling, etc. Okay, so the gates that lead to the apron, and then taxiway. We'll be discussing specifically about taxiway later. Taxiway, the roads that take the aircraft to the to the runways and back and forth. And then you have the runways, and then the terminal airspace, the airspace above the terminal. So all these apron gates, taxiways, runways, and the airspace above the terminal, all these are referred to as the airside components of the airport. Now, airside components obviously pertain to the aircraft operation. So aircraft can be parked, they can take off, they can land, they can undergo fueling, they can undergo maintenance, etc. All in the park, in the airside, various parts of their airside component. So they are referred to, or they are, that is the area which are dedicated for aircraft operations. As opposed to that, the land side is for passenger operations. So that means the activities that the passenger has to undergo before they can board the plane or after they get down from the plane. So all the ticketing, security checks, etc., etc. So all that on the land side, and air side are for aircraft operations. We will be looking at each of these components in some detail as we progress. I'll pause here for a minute. If you have any questions, I'll address them and then we'll go to the next slide. Okay, now we move on. No, we'll just so all this show that the just cursory look at the components reflect the complex functions with diverse requirements. That is, though we conveniently put these activities under various heads, we know how complex each of them can be, considering the traffic of aircraft as well as the traffic of passengers, the number of passengers, number of aircraft that every airport has to handle each minute or each hour of its operation. So it's obviously it's a complex transportation facility. It should serve the requirements of the aircraft. It should serve the requirements of the passengers, and then cargo and other surface vehicles, etc. Vehicles which come with fuel, the taxi or the other ground transport means, etc. Now, so and there are dedicated stations which are focused on each of these services for the aircraft as well as for the passengers. Now we take a look at the specific requirements of the airside components. As I stated, as I mentioned already, they are the objective of them and the principles that guide the management of that airside components are those related to the accommodation of moving of the aircraft around the airport as well as to and fro from there. So moving around the airport means say moving along the taxiway after landing, and moving for maintenance, moving around for fueling, for boarding, etc. So moving of the aircraft around the airport will can be for any of these purposes, and then obviously taking off and landing. Okay, so that is coming from the airspace to the runway or back from the runway to the airspace. So all these are included in the aircraft operation. Now, so when we just look at these operations, we can see that they can be conveniently categorized as the operations which are pertaining to the airspace or the airfield. Now, airfield components conventionally include the facilities located on the physical property of the airport. It is like the hangar, the fueling station, anything that is associated physically to the airport on the air side are referred to as that area is referred to as the airfield. So the apron is etc. is part of the airfield, and airspace, as we have just seen earlier, is the area of the ground. So where the aircraft take off to or they land from. So it's the airspace surrounding the airport where which is available for the maneuver of the aircraft for I mean during takeoff etc. and landing etc. So it's airspace is the area above the airport. So it's not the difference in the definitions of airspace and airfield. These are conventional wordings. So in the airport terminology, these are specifically designed or defined with these functions or these purposes. Airspace is the area of the ground. Airfield is the area on the ground, which is meant for the moving around of aircraft. Right? No, the airport, airfield, yeah, as I stated already, has components like runways, taxiways, parking areas, then the air travel control systems, lighting systems, the signals, etc. Now, on the other side, so this is what we just saw was the air side components. The land side components, which we have seen already, are uh, designed to accommodate the movement of passengers, movement of ground-based vehicles, car cargo, etc. So facilitating the movements of the passengers and luggages that is from the ground transport or to the ground transport from the land side. So all these are the main functions of the land side components. Okay, so as we have seen, one of the important constituent of the land side components is the airport terminal. The most vital infrastructure of the airport, because this is the terminal is the one that the passenger sees the most, uses the most, and spends maximum time during the travel. I mean, other than within the aircraft. What I'm saying is during the processes of related to boarding the aircraft, etc. The maximum time where the passengers spend is within the terminal. So that's where the passengers will have maximum contacts or which are likely to, or that's an area which is likely to leave an impression, good or bad, within the passenger, and hence it's a vital link between the airside operation and the landside for obvious reasons. So for a passenger, when we talk about an airport, it's a building complex that they go to board the flight or where they arrive upon landing. So what we in general, the users, the passengers, the customers mean as the airport is primarily the airport terminal building. Okay, the other components are functionally and technically elements or parts of the airport, but for passengers, when somebody talks about an airport, the picture is that primarily of the terminal building, and so it's a very important constituent of the whole scheme of activities within an airport. So it has the unique function of accommodating the needs for the aircraft as well as the passengers that board the aircraft, and the terminal building will have facilities which are for aircraft parking on one side, loading of unloading, etc., and on the other side, as we have seen, the facilities for passengers. And the most important objective is to provide passengers and cargo access to air transportation. So access to air transportation, that is a keyword. And that is what the terminal, airport terminal is intended for. Now, to make it most attractive, most assuring, and most punctual is the objective or the goal in the design of the airport terminal, as well as design of the process flow within the airport terminal. Just again, a sketch which sort of gives an overview of what we mean by primarily the land side and the terminal land side components, including the terminal. So the approach roads, the parking area, which are external to the terminal, and the terminal, which is basically the building, the shaded area there in this picture, and beyond the terminal, the air side, where you have the apron, the parking of aircraft, etc. So you can see the way that aircraft are parked, and you can see the projections. And we'll see this is a particular design for the terminal. This is not the only design. We are going to look at it now. What are the different designs for such parking areas where their aircraft can be parked, and how they are parked depending on the design. So all airport parking will not be the same way. Now you can see that in the picture here, all the aircraft are facing the terminal, and so like their nose facing the terminal, and it's not always so. So we'll see different designs of it. Anyway, so the shaded area there shows the terminal. That is the main infrastructure, the building that constitute all the facilities required for the passengers. Now, then you have the air side, including the apron, the taxiways, and the runway, as we can see on the rightmost side. So this is a simplistic representation of the air side and the land side components of there. Who all use the terminal complex? Very obvious. The airlines use for their ticketing, their security checks, and movement of their staff, and all activities related to the airline operation. Travelers, obviously, the passengers make use of it. Then well-wishers, meters or greeters. Meters or greeters is the airport literature terminology. Meters, I think I misspelled it. I'll correct it. Those who come to meet when you are landing, or when you, those who come to see you off when you are taking off. So meters and greeters. So they are also users of the terminal complex. So that's where they make contact with the people that they want to meet or to send off, see off. So well-wishers. Then obviously airport management staff, including the security staff, other clerical staff, those who help with the checking, security checks, those who issue the boarding pass, etc. A lot of, boarding pass are on the airline staff side, but who are all related to the airport management activities, they are also users of the terminal complex. And then there are government regulatory authorities, which include the say like customs, the customs check, other security checks, etc. And so the complex, terminal complex. So you can see that. Say if you look at each of them, each will have a different set of functions and objectives, and they may be diverse in nature. But the design of the terminal should meet the convenience, the effective operation of all these users. So and it should also adhere to the stringent rules and regulations which are required, again dictated by the requirements of aircraft manufacturing and maneuvering and the ground access system. So the terminal complex, the design of it should cater to the requirements of all these categories of users and should be in strict adherence to the rules and regulations that pertain to the air travel. Before we go further, I would like to I think I'll stop the talk now. We'll continue in the next session. If you have any questions, I'll take them now. Otherwise, I'll just try to play this video. Actually, this is one which gives a good amount of introduction using videos and sketches, etc., of the land side and air side components. I liked it. So it will be useful for you also to get a better feel of, or rather, visual feel of it. It's not that, again, many of you may be using the airports quite often. So it's not that they are new to you, but presenting them from the functional perspective, and that is what is important from this the perspective of this video. So I don't know how well I can. This one is, but I'll put that. I'll upload that along with the this one so that you can see it at your leisure. I will. I'm just trying to run it now. Sorry, should I pause for any questions, comments so far? Let me. Audio will be an issue, I guess. Let me see whether I can rectify it. Sorry, were you able to hear the audio of the audio along with the video when I just played it now? Somebody please.
No, sir, the voice was echoing actually, sir.
Sorry, what did you say? Yeah, just it was just echoing. Okay, which means that there is some issue. So because I'm playing it across my laptop and the mobile. I'll just fast forward through the video. Actually, the audio is important. So as I upload it, or I'll share the link, I request you to invariably go through this video. For now, I'll just fast forward switching off the audio. But then I request you to go through it at your leisure when after this, and then we'll stop for the session. We'll meet in the afternoon. It just basically provides pictures and videos that relate to the runway, taxiway, etc. So, though they are not new to us, it's good to have an overview of them, looking at them as the components of an airport, and just having a fresh look at the various functions that each of that area serves to do. And it's good that it also talks about the ATC area, that is the air traffic control, its primary function, etc., and also about lighting and then safety management, etc. So it'll be a somewhat informative audio video. I request you to spend some time to go through it, and not a very long this one exercise, just 12-13 minutes. So you may please go through it. I'll share the link. It's there in the PPT. I will also try to put that in the chat box. No, I'm sort of confused about how I put to the Teams chat. You can see the window, right? Now, if I put it here, is it visible to all of you? I'm not sure actually, or is it only to one person? Can somebody please check? Are you able?
So that would be to just that person. You can put it in the meeting.
Right. That's a problem, right? That's what I thought. So, how do I put a general chat that is for
Sir,
the
you can
team?
put it in the meeting chat box.
That's what I could not locate actually. Where is that now? Say,
Sir,
say
go
I'm
to
in the
Teams.
teams. I'm in the team. Where should I? Oh, is it here? No. No.
Yes, sir. A new
Yes, sir,
conversation.
new
You can
I
conversation.
put that.
okay. Right. This I think I've used in the past. Yeah. I didn't try that actually. Okay. Now I hope it's visible to all of you, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. Right. Okay. Thank you. So I
Sir, you have
request
to
you to
send
just
one.
take 10 minutes, go through this video. We'll meet in the afternoon.
Sir, you
Okay.
have to send one.
Hello. I not send it. Is it? I'm sorry.
You have to.
I said, yeah, I did. I did it now. I hope it should be visible. Okay then. So for now we'll stop. We'll meet in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Hey, sir.
Thank you.